what the albino vision process has. Is this something that you see the legislature tackling to figure out how you pay for this, or has it gotten to the point that the cost of this project maybe means you need to rethink it, or what?
So in session in 2017, we did pass House Bill 2017 to our next round of transportation funding, and gas tax resources and bonding were dedicated to the Rose Quarter to the tune of about $500 million. I believe that the estimate we are now seeing, as you have noted, is substantially higher. I would say, just from looking back, I don't believe legislators completely understood the highway components and the additional local access points that were going to have to be part of the project. So we're going to have to figure out how we can do a more expensive project, because it's not just about reducing congestion in the Rose Quarter. We all know that's a project of statewide significance. We need to do it. We have to figure out how to also address a very real and historic issue that the state and the federal government built a highway through existing communities, that now we want to upgrade that facility, that highway, and we have to take into effect the historical ramifications for the communities that were there. The albino vision with additional cover to try to promote a different neighborhood is something we have to redress. It's a historical issue. We have to come together as leaders to do the project, which will have safer passage through the Rose Quarter that will help the entire area, and do the local connectors as well as the local impacts that will benefit the community that was impacted years ago. What I will say is I think that we now have a challenge before the legislature of how we do that. And one of the things I think we're going to have to bring back to the table is more immediate implementation of region-wide congestion pricing and tolling for the entire region from the Columbia River to the Boone Bridge, and also on 205. If we get to congestion pricing earlier, we will have additional revenue to do not only 205 and I-5, but probably other projects as well in the Rose Quarter, as well as the bridge. We have got to take this seriously, and probably what we did in 2017 didn't go far enough. We funded a lot of projects around the state, and unless we're going to take money from a project somewhere else, we're going to have to find additional resources for the metro area. So that is back on us. I don't know if we'll get to it this session, but it is back on us.
So Jeff, before we jump off that issue, I think that the really interesting thing about this conversation, I wasn't here for the 2017 discussion. That was a bipartisan piece of legislation that was carefully crafted. But now we come to find out that we also, at the same time, have shovel-ready projects that don't have necessarily the local overlay of historic impacts when you talk about the Abernathy Bridge, for example, and expansion on 205 down around the Stafford area. And so you have another area that faces substantial congestion, which impacts emissions, which impacts economic viability, which impacts families and the time they spend on the roads and when they're back home and when they pick their kids up from daycare and all those things. And so you have funding set aside for a project that has more community work to be done, and folks want to do that community work. And then you also have a project over here in the metro region that is also significant, but at this moment has had the work done, has the design work done, and is shovel ready. And so to me, this is not a moment necessarily to say the solution is to jump to congestion pricing. It's another one of those moments where we say, we have the funds set aside. Is there a way to rethink approach? And this is a complex issue. How we address transportation funding has a lot of moving parts and a lot of deep investment in order and timing. But the longer you wait on each of these projects, what you noted for increased costs isn't going to stop. It's not going to suddenly be frozen at the number we received today. And the same is true for the shovel-ready projects between Abernathy and Stafford. And so investment now in those projects and allowing those projects to move forward while we allow the Rose Quarter community partners to do their work, I think, to me, is a reasonable approach, but we're a long ways away from that.
I wanted to make sure on what the speaker said. So you're saying the legislature needs to rethink maybe a stronger mandate to toll basically all of 205 and I-5 in that Portland region? Is that?
The entire metro region, yes.
Yeah.
And that was part of the conversations in 2017.
And that was part of the conversation in 2017, but we didn't quite get there. We just assumed the only people who would be first on the list would be the Abernathy Bridge. And I think we have to do the entire region, because not only I think that is more fair, it's also, we're probably gonna need those resources as well. While in the meantime, we have a project ready at Abernathy Bridge.
But that would be something the legislature would have to do.
We would have to do that, but I think in all transportation packages since I've been here, the one in 2009, for example, we made changes every 2 years. We looked at it, said, did we get it right? We rearranged money from project to project. Nothing is written, I mean, we all believe all the projects have to get done, but we might have to adjust how we do them and what phasing.